Hello, welcome to my APWH preview. Today we're going to talk about the Industrial Revolution. The Industrial Revolution was an age of transition from farm to factory, mercantilism to capitalism, homemade to store-bought, the horse to the train, Sunday service to the sport arena, romanticism to realism, and the country cottage to city slum. It started in Britain, and in the 19th century it has spread to America by centuries later, and then it's Germany, French, and Belgium. Britain was the first industrialized country because it had a stable democratic government, promotional government policies for entrepreneurs, and national bank and wealth investors, and the necessary resources including coal, iron, and waterways. In this relatively peaceful prosperity and productivity era, Britain's growing population required more food, while fewer farmers was needed to harvest the crop due to the new technology improved in agriculture efficiency. The negative impact of the Industrial Revolution is a displaced farmer has to find new jobs in factories, textile mills, and coal mines, and craftsmen were not valued when machines could do the manpower. And the positive impact is a change of the social hierarchy. Peasants rely on the land and landlords, but factory workers were wage earners, so they had access to currency, credit, and stock. Workers could now buy what they wanted, not just what they needed. So capitalism came along consumerism. Goods and services were more affordable and accessible, and companies competed for customers. And British was known as the workshop of the world. It was the leader of the manufacturing before America took it over in the 20th century. It was said that the sun never set on the British Empire because it covered a quarter of the world. India and British Malaya provided additional resources like cotton and rubber, which fueled the Industrial Revolution in their mother country. British was a superpower during the Victorian era, and Queen Victoria is the second longest reigning British monarch. She was crowned at 18, married her first cousin, and had 9 children. She influenced politics and established a moral code for much of the West. In 1851, Victoria's husband Prince Albert organized a great exhibition at the Crystal Palace in London to showcase England's technological achievements. During the same period in French, architect Baron Haussmann, who was responsible for the urban renewal in Paris after the Revolution of 1848. While British Empire was thriving during the Industrial Revolution, many British colonies and citizens were struggling. Britain had an unfavorable trade balance with China because they were importing tea and not exporting goods in return. British despised the emperor's ban and introduced opium to China because many people became addicted. And the economic conflict soon became a political conflict, and the countries fought the Opium Wars in 1840 to 50s. With a superior navy, British won, opened China to trade, and acquired Hong Kong from China. The British East India Company controlled India for a century, but they lost control after the Sepoy Mutiny, when the Indian soldiers rebelled after they were ordered to buy bullets that were greased with animal fats. This regulation angered the Indian people because Indians have 2 major religions. One is Muslim, who do not eat pork, and another is Hinduist, who do not eat beef. After the company lost control, the empire took over, and the government was known as the British Raj. India was known as a jewel in the crown of the British Empire. The Industrial Revolution brought a series of environmental pollution. The so-called London fog was smoke from factories, and most evolved to adapt to the new climate in the British. Pollution was hazardous to people's health, and many old and young people worked long days in unsafe and unhealthy factories. Many went home to crowded communities, the lack of the clean water, waste management, healthcare, and education. So during the Industrial Revolution, people's lifetime is even shorter than the usual time, which is before the Industrial Revolution. In the part of domestic, the Industrial Revolution brought a huge disparity of wealth, and socialists emerged strict labor reform for the working class. The novel of Charles Dickens, including the Oliver Twist, A Christmas Carol, and A Tale of Two Cities, was written in this time. Radical opponents of industrialization like Ludites attacked the factories and destroyed the machines that replaced skilled craftsmen. More were moderate liberals, like the Chartists, who worked through the democratic system to achieve the reforms they desired. One tragic event was the 1819 Peterloo Massacre in Manchester. 15 people were killed by the British cavalry while protesting for the repeal of the Corn Law, which about the tariff on food. Industrialization also brought changes to art. With progressive on photography, realistic painting was less popular, but Impressionism became new fashion. The first work was Claude Monet's Sunrise of La Havre, French, and the more significant word is known as water lilies. Going to the conflicts in British Parliament. In 19th century British politics, there were two major parties, Tories and Whigs. Prime Minister Sir Robert Peel, a Tory who served during the 1830s to 40s, created a police force, repealed the Corn Law, and tried to help Ireland during the potato famine. And Benjamin Disraeli, a Tory, a friend of Queen Victoria and British only Jewish Prime Minister who served during the 1860s to 70s. He had an intense rivalry with William Gladstone, a Whig who served during the 1870s to 90s. They passed Reform Acts not cause of compassion but in competition for votes, and the masses benefit from the expansion of the electorate, education, and rights for labourers. Their domestic policies were similar, but their international policies were different. Disraeli collaborated with the Rothschilds, a rich Jewish family, to construct and control the Suez Canal in Egypt, while Gladstone advocated home rule for Ireland. As the last, we are going to talk about Scotland and slave emancipation. The Scots are invaluable in industrialization. James Watt invented the steam engine, Andrew Carnegie mass-produced steel, and Alexander Graham Bell invented the telephone. Adam Smith defined and popularized capitalism. So with England and Scotland combined, British was a superpower. Besides being the first to industrialize, British was also the first to abolish serfdom and slavery. Minister of Parliament William Wilberforce was most responsible for the Slavery Abolition Act of 1833, and he set an example for emancipation for the rest of Western world. Also, the United States and the transatlantic slave trade when Western Europe did in 1808. The United States did not end the slavery until 1865 after the Civil War.